What's up, YouTube? This is Team Route over here. I'm Herb. I'm here with my teammate Jeffrey, as usual, and we're gonna give our opinion on the Mermail deck for next format and a couple of cards that um, we think are pretty good options to tech in the side deck, in the main deck, and in the extra deck. So this video is all about Mermails for next format and how we think they're gonna make a comeback. So here we go.
Yeah, like I said, guys, Mermails is obviously one of my favorite decks that I've ever ran. You know, it's very versatile. You know, it doesn't have it doesn't have it doesn't have too many bad matchups as is. You know, with the meta, even with against like Prophecy and E-Dragons with specific sides. You know, like it's not it has a pretty good matchup. Obviously, like E-Dragons and Prophecy still have an edge. But you know, like as is, you know, the deck is still solid. You know, if the V-Jump magazine is correct, you know, with TS going to 1, and Sphere also going to 1, you know, like most people would assume that the hit to TS is pretty big, and even though I might agree because TS is one of my favorite Mermails out of the deck, I would rather run TS over Megalo. If I had an option between the two, I would choose TS 100 times over Megalo. Even though like it's getting hit according to the magazine, and if it's correct, even if it doesn't get hit and something else gets hit like Dragoons or something, you know, like most of these techs are still going to be very viable for the deck. You know, like the fact that these two cards are supposedly getting hit just opens up a lot of deck space, you know, for different techs. And I'm explaining right now to Herb, you know, before we started recording, you know, and all these different techs, all these different monsters that you can put in, you know, that are just open up too many combos, you know, and and even Herb was like, oh man, you know, like really was actually kind of surprised at some of the combos, but yeah, I'm gonna talk about some of the techs, you know, some side deck options for next format, you know. I'm going to elaborate a little bit on if the current balance that we have, you know, that's the V-Jump balance is incorrect, you know, like if something else get hit like Dragoons, you know, I'll elaborate on what you can do in that scenario. Alright, so obviously for next format, if Megalo or TS gets hit, which in this case it's TS currently right now, like well, what's speculated to be TS because of the balance, I expect the deck to move away from a rank 7 heavy build, because the deck as it is right now, it's mainly a rank 7 deck. You know, you spam TS, you spam Megalo, you spam Tidal, you spam lead, and you go into rank 7s, you know, like to set up control, you know, like you set for safety, you know, for control, for safety and control, and for push plays. You know, when you want to push through one of your opponent's monsters, they can't get around with one of your other monsters. You know, you take it. You know, like, and then I'm expecting the deck now with different techs, you know, to be geared more towards half synchros, half XYZs, because as it is right now, the deck is mainly an XYZ deck. If you look at the current builds, you know, there's double Gaios, there's what do you call it? Dracosac, obviously, you know, a Master of Blades, number 11. You know, like all of these rank 7s are a staple in the deck. You know, they're and if one of the main level 7s in the deck, like TS, gets hit, I can see the deck moving away from that and moving more towards synchroing, or at least going half and half synchroing, half XYZing. You know, and with the addition of Archer over here, you know, like I'll talk about all these techs afterwards, but all these optional techs for the deck. With the addition of Archer, you know, like honestly, like synchros are a lot more viable now. Like in the build that I'm helping her build and like test out. You know, these are a staple in the deck. In the mono Mermail build with the title, these synchros are not staple. You know, sure, here and there, you might want to splash a couple in here because of the divas, you know, but if you play the deck for a while, you'll know that it's not very easy to go into level 7 synchros. And, you know, like, cards like Black Rose and Gungnir are just too powerful of cards, you know, to neglect completely from the extra deck. You know, and the fact that, you know, we're faced with the opportunity to move away from rank 7s, into synchros, that just opens up, a lot more, a lot more slots in the extra deck, to play cards, synchros. So I can definitely see, like people using synchros more for next format. And I personally, I'm thinking about building this deck. I would run half synchros, or if anything, more synchros than XYZs for next format, or half half. I think that's a very good balance. Half synchros, half XYZs. But like I'll explain other techs, for synchros and XYZs. But like you're going to want a variety for next format, going into next format. Like how I said in our previous video, we're going to see a lot more, a variety of decks for next format. All right, so what I have laid out right here is a couple of XYZs and synchros that you might want to consider for next format. Some of these are considered staple right now in the Mermail build, and some of these are not. The one that sticks out the most, obviously, right here is Trishula. According to the ban list, Trishula's coming back. I don't know if it's not confirmed yet. Like people are just buying this card, so like it's selling out from everywhere. But if it does come back, this definitely will have to go into the extra deck because it's so easy to drop with a Megalo or a Tias or a lead or a title and Diva. You go into Diva into infantry and you synchro for a Trish. It's pretty much a free Trish in the deck. All right, and now for the cards that you should consider, like Trish is a maybe because it's not confirmed yet the balance, but the cards you should consider, in my opinion, for next format are we don't have a Bahamut Shark on us right now, but the Abyss Trite / Bahamut Shark combo, where if Dragoons doesn't hit, and this is what I'm talking about, like if the balance that we have right now from the V jump isn't correct, and let's say like Dragoons gets hit. I would not run the Bahamut Shark and the Abyss Trite because there's obviously no reason to run it. But if we do have if the balance that's right now stays, like definitely run Bahamut Shark and the Trite combo for next format. You're definitely going to need it, especially with all the destruction for next format, like with Fire Fists. Like it's going to pose a wall pretty much, the Bahamut Shark Strike combo. So. And then obviously Dweller, Abyss Dweller is just an all-around good card, for decks that revolve around floaters, like Psychics, obviously Mermail, Lindy is a floater, and and all these decks that rely on that are graveyard reliant, this just shuts them down. Like it's stable right now because of dragons, at least one copy of it in your extra deck, but next format, we're going to be seeing a lot more decks. So I consider it more of a tech than anything else. The only deck that is really good against right now that you can definitely you're definitely gonna expect in the meta for next format is Mermails. So like I consider it a tech for next format, but it's definitely a powerful tech for next format.
What's the other deck that's coming out in the Judgment of Light starting?
Bujin?
Yeah, that it's good against
Abyss
Dweller.
Yeah, they can't activate the effects in the graveyard.
Yeah.
They can't pop, or they can't negate targeting of effect, the little turtle thing.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely good against Bujins. All right. So, and then Crimson Blader. This card, it could either go both ways because the extra deck space in this deck is very limited. With all the text that I'm showing right now, like I'm neglecting some cards in the extra deck right now that are obviously like just personal choices, or they're just staple in the extra deck. But like Crimson Blader is a staple in this format. With E-Dragons and Mermail still at their full potential. It's pretty much a staple. And any deck that can go into like a level 5 or higher, it's a staple to have it in your extra deck. For next format, like I consider it a tech, but a tech that you should really consider playing. It's not necessary because we're not going to be seeing E-Dragons spamming, like level 7s every single turn. You're not going to be seeing that as much. You're going to be seeing Fire Fist that's spam the level 6 synchros. So it's good against that, but you have to get it out early game to stop their engine, or else they're just gonna search a bear to their hand and then pop the Crimson Blader. You know, you might stun them for a turn, but they're still going to be gaining an advantage over you. So, like, this is definitely a good extra deck card for next format. But I would definitely, keep it in early format, you know, just to see like where the meta lands, and depending on where the meta goes for next format, either keep it in or take it out. You know, it can go both ways, but everyone knows that Crimson Blader is a very good extra deck card. You know, it's very versatile. You know, it hits a lot of decks. You know, especially like synchro decks. You know, decks that rely on like big boss monsters. You know, it shuts them down. Next card is Armory Arm. You know, like I love Armory Arm. You know, it opens up a lot of plays. You know, you can beat over monsters, burn for game. You know, but with the extra deck becoming tighter and tighter, the extra deck space becoming tighter and tighter, you know, like this has become more of a tech choice than anything else. You know, Diva's definitely going to play a big role for Mermails for next format, and you'll see why. But Diva is definitely like a very powerful card for Mermails for next format. So I would definitely consider playing this if you can find a space. If you can find a space, I would definitely run this. Now, I was actually showing Herb this card, and at first it was he was kind of iffy on whether you should run it or not. No, he brought it up, but he was kind of iffy about it, and then I kind of like explained it to him like what you can do with this card. You know, it's a very versatile card. You know, the fact that it's dark, you know, like adds a lot to it. All right, so if you guys don't know what this card is, it's called Underworld Fighter Balmung. It's a generic level 4 synchro type monster. It says when this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target one level 4 or lower monster in your graveyard, except this card is special summon that target. So, you know, at first you might say like, oh, you know, the only practical use you'll get out of this is, you know, like you're going against a back row heavy deck, I guess. You know, you're afraid of Mirror Force, you're afraid of a Tarantula. You know, you can just bounce back, bring back Lind with its effect. You know, but the fact of the matter is, it's more of a toolbox than anything else in the extra deck because it works well with Deck Devi. And Deck Devi for next format is looking really good right now because it hits in a Mermail mirror match. Now that Mermails are going to be getting techier and techier, you're going to see lower attack monsters. Most of the tech monsters that I'm going to show you are less than 1500 attack. And if you have this side decked against like the mirror match or even against Fire Fist, because let's see, Fire Fist, you know, like the cards like Spirit, you know, Leopard, let's see, what else? What other cards have like low attack? Chicken has 15,
Rooster.
I mean Rooster
Yeah.
has 1500 attack or less. They all have 1500 attack or less. If you hit this on early game, or early game, you can slow them down a lot. You know, I definitely wouldn't main deck it for this format. I've seen some people main deck like Eradicate for this format mainly because of prophecies. But I mean, this card is good, but I would definitely not main deck it. But definitely side deck it at least 2 of these for next format. You know, it's a very powerful card. You know, obviously you won't get this card's effect, you know, off of the Deck Devi because it tributes. But you know, the fact that you can go into Deck Devi, you know, is just really good. You just go into Diva into infantry, and then you just synchro, and then you set this first turn. And if you know you're playing against like Fire Fist, you flip this turn 1. You know, they're gonna stop their Leopard play. Sure, they might have a tanky or something like that, you know. But if you have like a set MST or something like that, you know, like you're going to plus off of it. And especially like if they go like Leopard, tribute it, then search for like a Tensu or something like that, and then you can read the Spirit. You can just activate the Deck Devi. They've already wasted their normal summon, you know, and they've already wasted part of their engine. And you're gonna be seeing what they draw for the next 3 turns, and that's very powerful. So, and then on top of that, you know, if you have, I was actually telling Herb this, if you have like, let's say you have a set Eradicator, because Eradicator is actually pretty good side deck in this deck, because you're on the big eye, and now you run this, and some people might assume like, you know, like, oh, how can this be an Eradicator target if it's 2100 attack? But if you have something like, exactly, if you have double Diva, you can go Diva into infantry. Then you activate the infantry effect, then go into the second Diva, then go into another infantry. If it's early game, like if it's turn 1, you draw the Eradicator, and you have double Diva, and you're going to be playing triple Diva for next format. You know, like it's almost gonna be staple for next format for Mermail builds. If you open up that, you have a turn 1 Eradicator play with a stall card on the field because you XYZ4 Gotchi, and you bring out the fighter. The fighter is gonna be pumped up to 2,500. You activate the Eradicator, you destroy you get rid of the fighter, and you just wipe out their entire hand. You know, and against cards that are very reliant on, against decks that are very reliant on spells or traps, you know, it can be a very big hit against those decks. So definitely consider assigning these. This is more of a toolbox tech, you know. Like I've actually tested it out in a couple matches. You know, it actually has done work, especially when going up against like heavy back row decks, and you're afraid of like Torrential or a Mirror Force. You know, you can honestly just, if you don't have a Lind, you can just summon the Diva and just try to punch over a monster that they have, like usually a floater or something like that. Something you wouldn't be able to punch over with, like let's say like a Marksman or like Diva Marksman. You get me? Like you can go into this and you have some sense of security, and then even if this gets like Torrential or something like that, you can just get the Marksman back from the grave. You know, like. You know, there's just a lot of plays for this. This is actually a really interesting tech for next format. Alright, and I'm going to move on to the main deck, or main deck. I'll actually talk about this afterwards. The main deck techs that you should consider for that. These are two proxies, by the way. I'll explain what these two are. Herb actually mentioned this, and I actually have to agree with him that this is actually a pretty good tech for next format. Call the Haunted. Considering the fact that Sphere is set to be hit, you know, if you have a Lindy Engrave and they go to blind MST, they'll call the Haunted. You know, since Sphere is going to be supposedly going to be limited, you know, people are going to be free to blind MST. So you can obviously chain this, get the Lind, and then get its effect regardless. And if you want to go for rank 7s, you know, this just opens up too many plays. You know, if you want to go for synchro plays, you can ditch, you know, something for Archer, then bring out something like, I don't know, like a Pike from the graveyard. It uses its effect, you know, and then just expand off that. You know, Call the Haunted opens up a lot of plays in the deck. You know, I honestly don't know why it's not why it hasn't actually been main decked or tested out, at least right now in Mermails. But you know, it's definitely a very viable main deck option for next format. So and obviously the next card we have is Fishborg Archer. You know, like there's not much to say about Fishborg Archer. You know, it's great. You know, it's honestly staple tech for next format. You know, I don't care what you say. I don't care what build you're running. It's a staple tech for next format. You know, it's a discard outlet. It's a with infantry in hand. It's an out to Ophion. You know, and that's big. You know, if your opponent doesn't have like a safe zone to chain to the activation of Archer, or a Chalice, you know, you're gonna get rid of that Ophion. And you're gonna go for some massive plays, you know, Black Rose their entire field, you know, something, you know. So I don't need to talk about too much about Archer because it's obviously a good card. It's pretty busted in this deck. All right, so the next card has been overshadowed by Abyss Sphere for so long, you know, and I can honestly see it being a lot more playable next format, considering the fact that you're going to get a lot techier. You know, you're going to be moving through your resources a lot faster. You know, you're going to want a way to get those back, and that's Abyss Squall. You know, Abyss Squall, I said it from the beginning when I saw Abyss Squall, you know, this card is good. You should at least run at least one copy of it. You know, right now, the meta, you know, with the main deck space, you know, it doesn't allow for it. But definitely next format, you know, going into like Fire Fist, Mermail, and Rogue deck format, you're definitely going to want to main deck at least one Abyss Squall. You know, that's definitely a tech for next format. And then obviously Abyss Sturge. You know, some builds run Abyss Sturge. It's definitely a good card. It's a good recycler. You know, it's very synergetic with the deck, obviously, because it's a Mermail card. You know, it's searchable with TS. You know, but you know, the fact that it can get around Soul Drain. There's actually a ruling on this with infantry, where you summon this, you discard the infantry. If you have a legitimate target upon activation, you can add the infantry back to your hand, and then trigger the infantry in your hand to pop the Soul Drain. I mean, wait, it's Soul Drain, right? Yeah, the one in the grave. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm like I'm like blanking out right here. But yeah, like you know, it's a very versatile card. It's a very good tech. You know, and I would definitely test out one. You know, if you like it, you know, definitely run it. All power to you. If you don't, you know, if it's not suited to your playstyle, you know, like I can respect that. Um, and these two cars, these two techs, are Aqua Spirit and what was the other one?
Aqua Spirit and Bahama Shark, was it?
No. Aqua Spirit and Jesus Christ, Abyssdine.
Oh, yeah, Bizdog, that's
Abyssdine.
right.
I can honestly see Abyssdine being very important to the deck next format. It allows for easy rank 3 XYZs, you know, like I was actually explaining it to Herb, you know. Here, let me get a no. Like let's say you have Lind in hand. I mean a Lind on the field face down. You know, you set it just turn 1. Like and like let's say you have like a title in your hand. All right, so like let's say they attack into the Lind, right? The Lind gets destroyed. It gets sent to the graveyard. Its effect triggers. You bring out. Let's see. You bring out a Pike. Like let's say this was the only monster that they had on the field. The monster that they poked with was the only monster that they had on the field. You bring out the Pike. You can discard the title. You can bring the. If you don't know what Dyne does, it's a level 3 water type. It's a mermail. It's a mermail card. Whenever it's added from your deck or your graveyard to your hand, you can special summon it. And whenever it's special summoned by the effect of a mermail monster, you can target one level 3 or lower. I think it's level 3 or lower. A level 3 water monster in your graveyard. I think it's mermail. Oh, I'm sorry guys, I'm like doing this off the top of my head, but you guys can look it up. But it's a level 3 water monster from your graveyard, and then special summon it. But you have to have another mermail monster on the field to resolve its effect. So they punch over the Lindy. You bring out the Pike. You discard the title. You get the Dyne to hand. Dyne effect activates. Oh, and by the way, guys, Dyne's effect can miss timing. So you have to be very careful on what you discard, because if you discard something that triggers upon discarding, it has to go as Chain Link 1 for the chain following the Pike effect. So Dyne would miss timing. So just be very careful with what you discard. That's why I'm using title as an example, because its effect doesn't have any effect when it's discarded. So you discard the title, you bring the Dyne to your hand, you special summon the Dyne, and then you activate its effect, you special summon the Lindy. Now you went +1 on them. You have a 7. You have an wait, is this 7? No, you have an 8 card count. Technically it's a +2 actually. I just noticed that right now. It's a +2. And like let's say you have like a diva in hand, you can go for some crazy plays next turn, and you have minimal investment in the push. In the push play that you're investing right now, and even if you get tarantulled, you have like a Lind on the field. So if you get tarantulled, you can still bring out like a Megalo or a lead. You know, Abyssdine it's definitely a very good tech for next format. Jeff Jones actually ran it in his build of Mermails, and I actually tested it out. I love the card. I had to cut it because I had to make the deck a little bit faster. You know, I had to fit in like other cards for this format, but I can definitely see with the format slowing down, it's definitely a legitimate tech for next format. And then the other card is Aqua Spirit. It's a level 4 water monster. Its effect is it cannot be normal summoned or set. You guys can look these up, by the way. You know, like just get everything. It can only be special summoned by removing from play 1 water monster from your graveyard. And during your opponent's standby phase, you can activate its effect. Change the battle position of a monster on your opponent's side of the field, and it has to remain in that battle position, and it cannot attack. So it's definitely a good tech because it opens up a ton of plays. Especially with Archer. So like let's say you ditch something for Archer, you special summon it from the grave. You remove from play something from like you remove from play a water monster from your graveyard. Special summon the Aqua Spirit. You synchro for 7. You black rose the field. And you still have your normal summon. So if you have like a Pike in hand, you know, and salvage, you know, you're set. You know, you're gonna be able to push for some major damage. And you know, it definitely opens up a lot of plays. And it's a very good, even as a stall card, it's very good. You know, you can pretty much like technically book one of your opponent's monsters, even though they're gonna be face up and they can use their effects. They can't attack. They're in defense position, or you know, they can't switch the battle positions until the end of the turn. So it's definitely a very good tech for next format. And one of the last texts that I'm gonna be talking about is Herald of Pure Light. And I was actually talking to Herb about this because I saw it in this binder, and then right away I was like, dude, I was like, Herb, this can actually open up a ton of plays. You know, like if you draw dead, and if you have a diva in hand, you know, you can make some plays off of this. And at first he didn't know what I meant by that, so I showed him a scenario. I just threw down a scenario. You're obviously not gonna have like scenarios like this all the time, you know. But this is actually a very common scenario. You know, you draw dead cards, or you have cards in your hand that you don't want, and you know the cards that I'm gonna be showing you, you're gonna be playing like triple of each. Let's say in the scenario, you have a diva, an infantry, and a lead in hand, and like let's say let's see, yeah, you have a TS engrave. Alright? Like, let's say these are your only 3 cards in hand. Like, let's say your opponent has no back row. And, like, let's say they have one floater monster. Let's say they have, let's see, like, let's just say they have, like, a synchro monster. Let's just say that they have a scrap dragon. For the sake of this. Alright? Let me just, whatever. I'm just gonna bring it out. Just for visual. So, let's say that your opponent has a face-up scrap dragon on the field. You have this engraved and you have this in hand, and like let's say you already used the catastrophe, or you want to go for or you want to make more plays off of this. You know, like you can honestly set up a lot from the play I'm about to show you. You know, sure, the catastrophe, you'll get rid of this, but you'll still have these 2 cards in hand. You know, and they'll be dead until you draw a discard outlet. You know, and you know, and I came up with this play right now. You know, just like a couple minutes ago. You know, you can summon the diva. You can activate its effect. You can special summon the infantry from your deck. You can overlay this for Herald of Orange Light. Pure Light. You can activate its effect. Actually, I would actually detach the. You detach the infantry. You activate its effect. You grab the TS back to hand. You shuffle the lead back into your deck. You can discard this. You can discard the infantry to special summon the TS. You know, and you pop the monster. Let's say you pop the scrap dragon from their field. Now you're free to swing, and you get a free search, and you can search for like setup plays for next turn because you still have the Herald of Pure Light on the field. You know, and chances are they're gonna want to get rid of the level 7 monster on the field because they don't want you to go into rank 7. So you get this to your hand. You know, next turn, if let's say you draw another dead card, you can detach this, grab the infantry back to your hand, or the diva, you know, back to your hand. Get rid of the dead card. You know, and then you can go for diva plays or pike plays. You know. You can make very good hands out of nothing with this card. It opens up so many combos, you know, that I would actually highly recommend testing it in your Mermail build. So yeah, that's a really quick scenario. You know, like that's why I'm saying that diva is going to be staple at 3 for next format, as well as these 2 cards right here. People in this format, people were running triple infantry and double marksman, if that, or triple infantry, 1 marksman, and like 1 diva. You know, people weren't focusing too much on this, but now that how I said in the last video, we're gonna be entering a little bit more of a back row heavy format. You know, at least in the beginning stages. You know, I would consider a marksman a staple at 3, especially if the deck gets hit. Something in the deck gets hit. You know, you open up slots and you can go. You know, it's never bad to have a marksman in the hand. You know, you can obviously poke, you can pop back row, you know, you can scare your opponent. You know, then sometimes, you know, you'll summon this. They have like a bottomless and a breakthrough skill set. They'll get scared, you know, on attack declaration they'll break through skillet, you know, and you know you get rid of like you know, you get rid of very useful traps, you know, and you still poke. You know, I would highly consider running triple of each for next format. Considering that you're going to be playing triple diva. You know, some people might say it gets cloggy and everything like that, but with, like I'm saying, with all these new tech cards, you know, with Archer, you know, they're going to be live in your hand almost all the time. So I would highly recommend running triple of these. Then obviously, I'm just going to do like a couple side deck cards, and that's pretty much going to be it. How much time are we at?
We're at 30 minutes.
Holy shit. Alright. Sorry, I'm going to wrap this up real quick. Honestly, this is a very good answer to Evil Swarm's Flying Sea. You know, like it's a very hard matchup for Mermails. You know, obviously you can still you can still come out victorious against against Ophion, you know, and like all that stuff. You know, if you play the deck right, especially with Archer now in the main deck, and then like other cards that have synergy with the deck. You know, this has synergy because it's water. You know, Penguin Soldier and Snowman Eater. Snowman Eater is definitely a must because you can search it off the pike and then set up Lindy as a bluff if you want to, and your opponent's gonna be scared of attacking into it. You know, and then if they attack into it with an expendable monster, you're gonna be plussing off of that, and then you can still set the Snowman Eater for next turn, and you pop something else that they have. And then one side deck card real fast before I end this that you might want to consider is XYZ Encore, the new card that came out in Judgment of the Light. It's look into it, guys. It's a very good text side deck, you know, for XYZ heavy decks, and you know, and this deck can capitalize on, you know, minimizing the amount of big monsters that it has to confront. So you know, I honestly think that that's a very good side deck card for this deck. So yeah, guys, this is my these are my suggestions on text for next format. You know, I'm gonna wrap this up because it's already way too long. But I would highly recommend that you guys test this out. You know, like I put a lot of thought into like what I presented right here, and I've actually tested out a lot of these things. So yeah, guys, you know.
All right, YouTube. So as you can see, Mermails are still looking like they're going to be really competitive next format.
They're not dead.
They're not dead at all.
Even if they get hit bad, they're not dead.
They're not dead. So expect them to be tier 1 and winning YCSs and whatnot. So
at least tier 1.5.
At least tier 1. I swear it's tier 1. But yeah, see you, YouTube.